Hey there, commercial construction coffee talk fans. Thanks for chiming in. My name's David Corson. I'm your host. I'm also the publisher and editor of Commercial Construction and Renovation Magazine. This is what it used to look like when we printed it. We're digital now, but I'm breaking out some archives here. October 2020, I had Eleanor Alvarez, CEO of Ganzor Suites, and we thank Eleanor for gracing the cover. I always like holding the magazine because, I'm digital now, but let's see what I was doing in the back. Ooh, I was riding the bike with my kid. This is our old house, and I'm on the Harley. And my kid, he was into flipping bikes and so forth, and had some great times on the road. He's in aviation. He's an AMP, and he's just about ready to move down to West Palm to work for Gulfstream. And he was at Boeing and FlexJet, and now he's going to do Gulfstreams. But always like holding the magazine. This issue was, let's see, this one was 146 pages, and it's always nice to see what was going on. And I had a little more hair, and I wasn't as gray back then, but that's okay. My helmet's covering here in the picture. But going digital was the best thing. Don't miss the post office. Don't miss the printer. And had about just under 49 million people hit our website last year consuming content. This year I'm on pace to do between 70, 80 million. 100 million is in probably in 2026, unless things go berserk here. But I'll take what I could get. Everybody out there that finds us on the web and consumes our content, you are gold in my eyes, and I couldn't have gotten there without you. So we really appreciate you finding us, and hopefully you'll enjoy this episode. I'm sitting out here at my house that I built with my wife. We self-built it. And we just moved in about 2 weeks ago. I'm still unpacking my studio, trying to get my neon signs up, and I'm living in boxes. And the last couple of episodes I've done inside, but I figured I'd go outside and see if I could get the signal, which I did. Thank God for the fiber optic line that they put in. And that fence back there, I built that myself. Got the two-hand man auger. I dug 39 posts, and then the rain held me up. It took me about 6 days. But we put the posts in, then we did the boards, then we did the chicken wire. I've got coyotes behind me. We just had a bear last night that was roaming around our neighborhood. There's only about 50 homes in our subdivision. We live right on Lake Lanier. The lake's right behind me, and they put a warning out, hey, make sure your doors are locked and your dogs and this and that. And but at night I come out here, I got my weapon on me because the coyotes, they can hop the fence, and you got to just be careful. And it's you're up here in the north, in North Georgia, in the woods, and you'll see all sorts of predators that are out there: foxes, coyotes, bear. You probably have some mountain lions or cats in there. I haven't seen any of those yet, but they say they're around. But the bear picture was like, oh wow, honey, look at this. And she's like, oh my God, the bear, And we have four rescues. They're like appetizers for these animals. So we don't want anything to happen. They're family, and one of them's 14 years old. He's deaf and blind. He can't hear anything. He would never see it coming. But anyway, but it was an awesome experience building the house, and we're off to I want to keep building with my wife. It's my wife's company, and women minority owned, and we're bidding on I don't know, $3 million in renovation, huge house about 20 minutes from us, and another new build. And I've just got the building bug. I come from a construction family, but I build a magazine every month. I used to do it with paper and ink and so forth. Now I do it digitally, but I'm a builder. That's what I do. I've become a content creator too, and it's just been an amazing transformation. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever had thought that I would have that traffic, let alone being a digital guy. But it's scary. You go through these things and you think everything's going to happen, and all of a sudden 2020 came, and here I am, and I'm basically I'm still a publisher, but I'm a digital, and my company's completely different than what it was. So, but I have a nice gentleman in my hometown. My mom was from Philadelphia, where I grew up, and my dad was from New York. And Andrew Nikolai, did I pronounce it right? Did I get
Nikolai.
Nikolai? Thank you. He's vice president for CSG Partners, and he's an ESOP, which is basically helping people that sell their company and they sell it to their employees. And I know a bunch of my clients have done that over the last couple of years, and I just thought it was very strategic at this time of the year because we finished the first Q1 and Q2's over. Today is the first day of Q3 and the second half of the year. And I know a lot of people where they don't have maybe they don't have siblings or kids that they can give the company to, and they can either sell to a hedge fund or capital investment, or they can go the ESOP route. And like I said, I know some companies that are clients of mine that went this route, and I just thought it was very strategic to have Andrew on to talk about, hey, this is how this works, and if you never thought about it, and so forth. In fact, my son went the skilled trades route, and I told him, I said, look, you should become a plumber. Everybody needs water, so we'll find a guy that doesn't have any kids to give the company to. We'll go out, we'll buy it, we'll take it over, and you can become a millionaire. And so this whole thing about selling your firm, how should I do it? Should I go the employer route? Should I go the investment route? And a lot of people don't think about it, but you have to plan. And my parents told me, hey, you need to get out. You've had a great run, blah, blah, blah. And, your son's not going to take the company. I only have one kid, and the dogs aren't going to run it. And and I did the M&A thing and went through that and looked at it. And, but I just thought it was very strategic right now because the economy is going to explode. You don't, it's an amazing time to be alive. And just like having a living will and, having insurance and so forth, if you're a business owner and you're kind of going, gee, what do I do with my company? And my dermatologist, he did the same thing. He found someone. His kids didn't want to take the company over, and we had this discussion several years ago. And he had someone buy it. He's still working. And my dentist yesterday, I just had my teeth cleaned. He decided to get out of doing the treatments. He brought another doctor in, a dentist to come in, and he still owns the building. He's going to kind of keep his hands on there, but they're going through that ESOP and how they're going to do the buyout. And it's just really interesting, from a financial sport because so many people have this to go through. So, Andrew, the way that we're going to work our episode is I'm going to do it in three parts. You're going to tell your story, where you grew up, where you went to school, kids, et cetera, and how you ended up at CSG and doing the ESOP. Then we'll talk about lessons learned from the last 5 years of the roller coaster that we've all been on. And you can kind of, tell us, hey, was there momentum as things, gathered and gained momentum as we went through. And now we're, like I said, halfway through 2025 and going through the second half of the year. And then you'll leave your contact info, one positive thought or phrase, and then we'll finish up. So with that, Andrew, the floor is yours. Tell us your story.
Thanks, David. Appreciate that intro and happy to be here today speaking with everyone. Uh, yeah, so my story, I grew up on Long Island right outside of New York City.
What
Went
city? Come
Great
on
Neck,
now.
Great
Oh,
Neck, New
Great
York.
Neck. Peter
Yeah, right outside
Luger.
Queens. Yep, Peter Luger's, that's right.
Where you got? My family, when we had our showroom at 32nd Lex, my dad was in upholstery furniture.
Okay.
And anyway, we had our office. It was an old bank building right behind Peter Luger's. It was a white bank building that we took over, but Peter Luger's and the Ferrari dealer, it was right behind.
Yep,
We were right behind him. So there you
yep.
go, Great Neck.
That's a claim to fame.
Knickerbocker Yacht Club.
That's right.
I could throw them all at you. North Side Drive. Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes, I grew up in Great Neck. Ended up going to school up in Boston at Northeastern University. Really liked the program there. They have a co-op program built into the education that allows you to intern at different companies throughout, your undergraduate career. So I did a couple different internships. Ended up starting my career in equity research at a boutique shop in Boston. Did that for a couple years, wanted to move back to New York, where I'm from, was looking to transition a little bit into investment banking and, found this role focused on ESOPs. Thought it was really interesting, didn't really know too much about it, but figured I'd give it a shot. Been with the firm now for almost 8 years. So started as an analyst, worked my way up to vice president, but it's just been a really exciting time over that, 7 to 8 year period. A lot of growth, a lot of opportunity, and have really just been stimulated, been constantly learning new things, and excited about the future that we have.
I was accepted at Northeastern. and I was going to go do the programs. I was a hockey lacrosse player, and
Okay.
anyway, I ended up going to the University of Denver, but I was going to do the 5-year gig. You go in,
Yeah, yeah.
you go to school, you work, you get some, on hands experience, and I've been to the Bean Pot multiple times over the years,
That's
and
great.
the Northeastern thing, when I heard that, I was like, all right.
And you get 5 years instead of four, so what's
Yeah.
better than that?
Well, I did the 5-year plan at DU too. My
Okay.
parents had a house out in Vail, so I went out and I took a year off. I worked up in Vail and bartended and worked on the mountain. Had my pass, and but the 5-year program, the co-op gig was
Yeah.
a really, really interesting way to go to school, I thought, and uh, I was seriously going to go there. My mom, when I was going to, graduate from prep school in New Jersey, and she had gone to Africa for like a 6 month safari. So when she left, she thought I was going to Northeastern
Yeah.
to become a Husky, right? Northeastern Huskies.
Yep.
Yeah,
Huskies.
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Great hockey team, and
Yep.
anyway, she came back and she's like, "Where's Dave?" And he's like, "Oh, he went out to DU to be a PIO and play hockey." I thought I was going to Northeastern. No, a couple of his buds said, "Come out and the house." And so, but very fond of Northeastern.
Yeah.
How can you go wrong going to school in Boston in Beantown? I mean,
Right.
just an unbelievable experience. So,
Yep.
um,
Yep.
what did you do when you did your co-op when you were in Northeastern? You
So
know.
I did a couple different, it was, I went to school for finance and accounting, did a couple accounting co-ops at, big four public firms, tried out audit and advisory. Didn't really love the roles, but I think that's part of the value of the co-op program is, finding what you like and hopefully getting a job out of it, but also finding what you don't like so you can be more, efficient when you graduate and are looking to start somewhere full time. So moved more into a finance role in the equity research. It was an interesting place. We were gathering point of sales data from retail stores across the country, and aggregating that data, analyzing it into research reports for hedge funds in order to inform how companies like Apple and other firms were doing in between quarterly earnings reports.
Mm-hmm. And what made you when you saw the ESOP, what was the main thing that attracted you, to go this route where you're currently at?
Yeah, I just thought, I had never heard the word ESOP in school. It was something that, seemed like an incredible product offering that still was so, not very well known. And I just, immediately saw the opportunity, found it to be a very interesting, type of way to go through a transition of your business and, figured I'd try it out. And yeah, over the years, it's certainly played out that way where it's becoming more popular. There's still a lack of education and awareness about it. So we're constantly trying to spread the word and have business owners consider it as an option. It's not going to be for everyone, but at least, considering it as one of your options when you're going through a potential transition, is sort of our goal out there and helping people just to understand what it is and how it works.
Listen, I'm a data guy. I'm addicted to data. So the more that you know, the better off you're going to be. Even if you don't even have to apply it or use it, I don't care what you're doing. If you hear something you don't understand it, and you're like, oh, maybe I should look at that. And then you go through it, and you know what? Hey, this is a really cool gig. Maybe I'll do it. But you know what? Maybe I'll stick this back in my knowledge vault up on the shelf, and someday that might be, something that's a fit. And you're right, it's not for everybody. Just like construction's not for everybody, retail's not for everybody. I mean. I was going to run my family's business with my cousin, Now he's at Stifel and I'm a publisher, and
Yep.
you just, hey, furniture wasn't my bag after I did my retail experience at Levitt. So I get it. And am I right? There's a lot of family businesses that are out there where the siblings just don't go and take it. And, what do? You
Yeah.
give your employees an opportunity to buy the company, right?
Yep. Yeah, no, it seems like family transfers are becoming less and less common these days. I think back in the day, if your father or your parents owned a business, it was just expected that you were going to take it over. And now either the parents don't think the children can handle that responsibility or the children aren't interested and want to do something else. But there's certainly less and less businesses that are staying within the family and making it to, second, third, fourth generation. So naturally, they're going to look elsewhere and figure out, what are my other options?
The developers that own the woods behind me, they're like fourth or fifth generation. They've been here forever. I mean, I don't know how many acres they have back there, but anyway, uh, the kids are going to inherit it. So I think they signed a 10-year deal where no one can build behind me. And the kids, they want to sell it and they want to, put whatever in there. Maybe it's another, development. And the parents are like, no, no, no. The grandpa gave it to this, and we like the woods and we're sitting on it, and I'm hoping that they don't go that route, but we'll see. But it's the same thing. They're giving it, and the children, you give it to your kids, they might not have the same outlook that you want them to have, and you work so hard to build it up, and then they might drive it into the ground, or they might take it and then sell it to someone, and all these things come up in those conversations. Am I correct?
Right. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And I think some of the downsides of, some of those third-party sales, whether it's a private equity buyer or someone else, have come out over the years as that, strategy has proliferated a bit. And you see, employees getting fired or let go, synergies getting recognized, which usually has a negative impact on the employees and the individuals that have helped you build the business maybe are negatively impacted. So I think there's more and more business owners that are considering that side of the equation now too, as part of, instead of just how do I optimize the dollars in my pocket, I'm going to look at that, but also consider the other impacts of a potential transaction.
The company that I was with when I started my publishing career, we had 10 magazines and 8 trade shows, and we became employee owned. I was management, and then Nielsen bought us in 1999, right when I started my construction magazine. And that honeymoon lasted about 18 months. And then they started to sell a couple of the titles off, and they said, "Oh, we love the entrepreneurial spirit down here. We're not going to change anything." And then one by one, some things changed. And then 9/11 happened. And right after 9/11, they whacked about, I don't know, 40 or 50 magazines out of their portfolio. And my little construction magazine had gotten the axe. And so I took the day off and took one of my PTOs, and I flew up to New York. Stayed at my cousin's place in Fort Lee, and we drove into work that day. It was a nasty, nasty day.
Yeah.
I met with the president, Nielsen. I said, "Mike, you need to sell me the company, my magazine." He's like, "David, you could retire here." And I said, "Mike, I'm going on the road to Texas. I'm gonna be with Radio Shack, some other brands, blah, blah, blah. I'm gonna come back. You need to make a decision." And they thought I was bluffing. And I came back and I said, "Are you gonna sell me the magazine?" They said, "No." I said, "Here's my resignation." I left December 17th, 2001. Everybody told me not to do it. My parents, "Don't do it. You've got an expense account, 6 figures, blah, blah, blah." And I just said, "Nope." The year my son was born was the year that I launched the magazine. I treated them both like my kids, and I had to stick up for my magazine kid. And
Yeah.
I just kind of rolled the dice. 9 out of 10 companies don't make it, but here I am, 25 years later, and I'm still standing. And but I went through the M&A thing right before the roller coaster started, and uh, right when that happened, we signed some NDAs. People were, interested, and I wanted the right fit if I was gonna. I actually had already written my publisher's column, and anyway, when everything went kaput, all those deals just went away. So I had no choice. I just had to, keep running it. And
Yeah.
now where I'm at, I'm like, as long as I don't get arthritis or I lose my eyesight, I could probably do this for a while. But as I get older, when I know it's the right fit, it's time, and
Yep.
I was
Yep.
just I was just talking to these guys, that this contractor in New York, that they went ESOP, and we were talking about retirement. And he goes, "Yeah," I said, "Joe, man, listen, we've been around a long time, and he goes, "David, man, retirement's right around the corner from me, and so many of my clients are in that stage of what do they want to do." And
Yeah.
it's a very, very scary decision, but if you do it the right way and you have someone like yourself guiding them, it can be very advantageous. And and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you
And
right?
it's hard to balance, ESOPs are very unique in that, a lot of times the owners are moving towards retirement, maybe want to monetize their equity or get some money out to set themselves up for retirement, but still want to keep working, still want to stay involved in the business. And a lot of times it can be difficult to accomplish both of those things, right? You're either selling and you're out, or you're not selling and you're in. And so, an ESOP can be a good fit for some of those situations as well, where it is a way to, even if you start by selling a minority stake in the business to an ESOP, take some chips off the table, diversify your wealth, but still run the company, maintain control, and dictate the future of the business. So it can be a good kind of path to exit over a longer period of time, still keep working, but also satisfy the personal liquidity goals that you have for retirement and for your legacy.
The most important thing to me when I was going through the M&A gig and listen, I wanted the right fit because I had several magazines over the year and I had sold a couple of them, and the people that bought, they just sold them, they just bought them to get rid of me because I was carrying all the ad pages, and I didn't like that. But the most important thing to me was when I was having these discussions was, look, my people are the most important thing. I wouldn't have gotten to where I was without my people. So you need to keep the people on board that got me here.
Right.
And that was my biggest concern. Sure, you could write a check if you get a payout, but I really wanted them to be maintained. Get a little payday, but I wanted them to, continue on. And that was the most important to me because there's no I in team. You can't get things done without your people. And
Right.
why shouldn't your people have the opportunity to keep the company, whether it's a small, whether it's a full buyout or a partial. It's kind of like when the Atlanta Thrashers left here. They had 7 or 8 owners, the attorney, they're all yelling at each other. And I was a ticket holder for 11 years. And I knew the VP of marketing, and he was on my hockey team in the AAA league that I played in here. And I wrote him a note. I said, Derek, man, why don't you just go to all the fans and let us buy the freaking team and keep it here? What are you going to let take it up to Winnipeg? We're all down here. We won hockey. It's the second time the NHL had a team. Why are you going to do this? Do it. Put a gig out there. Be
Yeah.
like the Green Bay Packers and do a stock option. There's
Yeah.
so things where you could keep it, And if I knew that they were going to leave, I would have never been a ticket holder and spent all that money on, season tickets. Yankee tickets. You know how expensive they are.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And now
That
they're
makes
talking
sense.
about bringing another team down here. They're building another 18,000 stadium here, just southwest of me here. And I was talking to another ticket holder the other day, and I'm like, I'm not going to buy any more tickets. I was just, basically just
Yeah.
kicked to the curb. And
Yeah.
but I'll probably go. Hey, look, I was a Rangers guy. Brad Park
Right.
was my idol. So when the Rangers come down, I'll buy tickets to go watch the game. But I'm not going to buy season tickets. I'm not going to,
Yeah.
you know.
Yep. Yep.
Look,
Yeah. And I think continuing on what we were saying, the employee side is so important in the construction industry. It's, we're hearing it from virtually all of our clients. It's challenging to find enough skilled labor, to find enough, staff out there to support the business, to support our growth plans. And, an ESOP is something that can help with that. It drives retention of staff. It helps to attract staff. It's a very unique offering that you can provide to employees to gain ownership in the business that sets the company apart from competitors and gives you that strategic edge that can really, benefit the business and drive overall performance to be better if you're struggling with kind of challenges on the labor front.
My parents were the ones that actually made me kind of look at it. I think I was in my maybe I was 55, 58. I was somewhere in there. And they were like, look, you really need an exit strategy. Have you thought about that? And I said, no, I'd like to do it. And he goes, look, you worked hard, you really need, unless someone, you can do this, you can go it this way, but you really need to think about what your exit strategy, because eventually you're going to retire. You've worked hard, you deserve to have the last portion of your life, the way that you want to structure it. Maybe, like myself, I'm always going to work. I couldn't hit golf balls or fish every day. It's just not me. It's not my
Yeah.
DNA. But I also would like to travel a little. I'd like to go, see the sights and, finish my bucket list. But they were the ones that said, "Hey, you really need to look at this," and so I did. And it was a very educational thing. And I learned about some, like when we were building this house, we were going to do a hedge fund gig, and then we found out another way to do it. And so if you don't know, ask, and then you can actually make a rational decision. And people like yourself that are in the sector are are crucial. So you know all the ins and outs, and so you can make a rational decision because sometimes it might not be the best decision or
Right.
the way that it's structured, correct?
Yeah, no, that's right. And we help guide, clients through the process. We hear all the time it's too complicated, it's too expensive, all of these reasons to, give up on it on the surface without actually looking under the hood, figuring out what the benefits are, and then you can weigh, the pros and cons, the benefits and the costs against each other. But you need someone to help guide you through the process. It's not as complicated as it may seem. There's a lot of flexibility with ESOP, so there are benefits, there are a lot of tax advantages that really make it worth considering. And like you said, whether you decide to do something today or in 5 years from now, at least you can make an informed decision based on, some of the details and underlying benefits versus, what your other options are.
Let's talk about March 2020. So March 2020 comes, cranes everywhere, low unemployment, no inflation, cranes everywhere. I don't care what city you went to. It's just booming. And then kaput. Oh, it's going to be 3 weeks. Oh, it's going to be 3 months. Here I am 5 years and I'm still talking about it. And but a lot of my clients saw some of the best years over the last 5 years. If they could have found more project managers or superintendents to oversee projects, they probably could have had driven more, built more stores or driven more revenue. But the biggest thing was that they found out so much about their people and their company and, moving forward. What did you see out there? Because you probably talked to all sorts of people that are in this kind of in this phase of, what do I do? So talk about how kind of you weathered the storm because you had to deal
Yeah.
with it as well.
Yeah. And I
You were
think
at ground zero there.
That's right. Here in New York, everything was
Yeah.
shut down. Yeah, I think initially, everyone, there was so much uncertainty out there. So everyone, put any real plans of a transaction on pause, wanted to see how things were going to play out. We saw, the price of a lot of raw materials skyrocket as people, did more home improvement projects and things like that. And so certain of our clients in the construction industry, maybe were negatively impacted where if you're bidding on a job under a fixed price structure and now your costs have escalated, that can impact profitability. Maybe the project turns unprofitable. We also saw labor become even more tight, and it was challenging to properly staff jobs, having to pay up to, get jobs complete again, which hurt margins. So there was certainly, I would say, a year or two period where it was a bit challenging. I think everyone learned from this experience and have built, certain price escalators or other things like that into contract structures today, so that if something like that happens again, there's naturally some protection against it. But yeah, there was a multi-year period, I would say, where activity was very slow. And since then, we've seen ESOPs in general, but specifically in the construction industry, activity has started to really take off. It's our most, active industry these days. We're seeing more and more activity as, baby boomers in general start to reach that retirement age. And so across all industries are starting to, go through more and more transactions each day. But also ESOPs are becoming a little bit more well known. There's more education out there. The construction industry is very connected where, everyone knows each other. And so as you see one or two companies start to do it, they talk to their friends and it starts to spread till, more and more companies start considering it and going through these transactions. So I think it's really still in its infancy. ESOPs as a percentage of the overall M&A market are still likely less than 1%. So there's a huge opportunity and still a lot of room to run, but we've started to see, some good momentum the last couple of years after some of those issues subsided.
So now we're finished the first half of 2025, Q1, Q2, they're finished. Good time to kind of evaluate, sit back, see what you done, what you accomplished, what you didn't, what you did good, what you didn't do good, where you have to improve, what you want to do for the second half of the year, go all the way to, pedal to the metal to December 31st, look at everything. And then, like right now, I think it's an amazing time to be alive. and just be in business because the economy is going to explode if the politicians ever get their act together and they lower interest rates and everything else that they've got going on. I think they're still on the floor deliberating the OBB, which is the one big beautiful bill. I went to bed last night and I woke up early this morning and they're still talking about it,
Yeah.
but it could change. But it's just an amazing. It's like every day there's history in the making. You're seeing everything in real time, and obviously you're bullish, moving forward. Correct?
Yeah, and there's some really interesting stuff, talking about the tax bill that's being proposed. One specific example is the ability for companies to deduct 100% of the cost involved in constructing a manufacturing facility within the US. So right now, buildings are depreciated over a 39-year period. If this bill gets passed and this is included, you can deduct 100% of the costs in year one. So most likely that's going to drive a ton of construction activity within the US. Firms like Amazon and other companies in the US are going to be building a lot of manufacturing plants, data centers, semiconductors. The goal is to bring a lot of that activity back to the US and creating tax incentives, just like there's so many ESOP tax incentives out there to create more employee ownership structures and create more of these type of transactions. I think it'll also drive a lot of investment in the US, which will naturally help a lot of construction companies.
The really cool thing about an ESOP is, if you've been with a firm, let's say 15, 20 years, and all of a sudden you get a new owner, like I said, those honeymoons normally don't last too long. However, if you get the opportunity to be a partial owner or a full owner management, and management just wants to kind of take the 40,000 view down, but just keep an eye on things, but eventually the employees will own it. You've got a stake every day. You get up differently when you get out of bed. Hey man, I'm an owner. I want to go out and perform. I want to drive more revenue. I want to make sure my project is on budget, on time, architecturally stimulating, and hopefully maybe even under budget, so we can make more, more profitability, whatever our profit margin is, historically on a construction project. And they're all different. I mean, it depends on the size, but that's the mentality of being there, because now you've got some skin in the game where before you were just, you were a computer number. I hate to say it like that, but am I right?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. It makes it a lot more real, right? To come in every day and feel that the work you're doing directly leads to dollars in your pocket through your ownership in the company. And ESOPs are also very unique in that a 401k plan, you're taking money out of your paycheck and contributing to that. So it's impacting what you take home today versus ESOPs typically are funded on behalf of the employees by the company. So whatever you're earning today in terms of base bonus, salary, things like that, that all stays the same. And now you're layering on ownership in the company on top of that. That is free to the employees, but it's earned over time. They need to vest on their shares, but also they need to work hard to grow the price per share, and that leads to value directly in your retirement account. So when you get to that point, your retirement is most likely taken care of through the ESOP program.
I look at it as an ESOP as that you can see the fruits of your labor through your 401k. However, if you do the ESOP route, you still can see that, but it's like on steroids because it's going to be that much better if you work that harder and you grow the revenue. Your company's worth more, and it was all because of you, and you get the enjoyment of saying, "Yeah, I did that, and I'm getting compensated for it," where before you weren't. You know,
Right.
just
Yep.
with your 401k, you're getting that other layer, and that layer could be huge. You just don't know. But
Yeah.
if everybody buys into the vision, you can go down and score touchdowns every time you get the ball, right?
Yeah. And we haven't talked about it yet, but the tax incentives at the corporate level. So most of the time, employee-owned, ESOP-owned companies can operate 100% tax-free. So eliminating, one of the largest expenses from running a construction company is a huge differentiator, right? If you don't have to pay taxes every year, you can use that money to invest in your staff, invest into more equipment or, facilities to grow the business, and that also leads to more value for the employees. So just putting the company in a better financial position by operating in that tax-free or tax-enhanced state can also drive more value for the overall company, which now the employees participate in.
So if you're out there in commercial construction coffee talk land and you've got a facility maintenance company, you've got a construction company, you have an architecture firm, engineering, I can go down the list, plumbing, electrical, flooring installer. You know it's all out there because you have all these subs that are out there. They're building your as the general contractor. You got to hire people to get stuff done. You're just a big captain on the boat with a bunch of different trades that are in there, and you're at that point, and let's say you're the owner. If someone wanted to bounce, maybe they'd never thought about it, or they're watching this video and go, "Wow, that's unbelievable what I just heard." How would someone reach out to you to bounce some questions off you?
Yeah, so typically the process starts by some education. If the client's ready, running what's called a feasibility analysis. So that feasibility analysis includes what's the value of your company, what are the financing options for an ESOP transaction, and then we model out and look at different structures. So minority sale, majority sale, closing as a C Corp versus an S Corp, including warrants, stock appreciation rights. As I said before, it's a very flexible transaction. And so we try and look at a range of different structures, model out the cash flows to the owner, to the business, to the employees, and figure out what the best path is based on what the owner is trying to achieve. And
And
at
your
that
EBITDA,
point,
right? And EBITDA too, right?
yep, and EBITDA. So we'll look at EBITDA multiples and valuation multiples, and really try and figure out, if the owner wants to retire in 15 years, maybe starting with a minority sale and staging it out over time versus selling 100% up front. We'll look at all of those different details. We'll also analyze if it makes sense to make a 1042 election, which is the capital gains deferral benefit. If anyone's familiar with the 1031, where you can sell a piece of real estate and roll over the gain, 1042 is very similar. If you sell your business to an ESOP, there are ways to defer and potentially eliminate capital gains taxes on the sale, which is a huge differentiator for the owners personally. So all of that initial analysis is part of that, stage one of the process. Typically, it takes about 4 weeks to complete. It's a relatively low cost, and that helps business owners understand what an ESOP is under different structures and if it's a path they want to go down. If they do want to move forward, then we would get engaged and bring in the rest of the parties that we need to negotiate a transaction. We would work on raising the capital, negotiating all the terms, and really kind of bringing the transaction to close in an efficient manner.
What's an average time for an ESOP to be done? I know it's an ambiguous question because everybody's different, but in general, how 4 months, 5 months, could be a year.
Yeah, you're spot on. Usually we say about 4 to 6 months to get it done from start to finish.
I'll tell you, with the M&A thing that I did, and it was eye-opening because I knew about earnings before taxes and appreciation. If you don't know what that is, that's what EBITDA is. It's the most
Yep.
important number, okay? If you're an entrepreneur, you got to know what your EBITDA is, not your profit, your EBITDA, all right? And then what your multiples are going to be. Like I was a publisher and I had a show. So my magazine was worth, my multiple was this, but the show was this. It was kind of a combination of everything. But even if you don't do it as a business owner, it's so like, how much money is in your bank account every day. You know what your cash flow is. But if you look at it from a 40,000 foot versus a micro level looking at the macro, it's mind blowing. It's an eye opener, and then you kind of know where you stand, and wow, I didn't realize that, and this and that, and this is what the value is on the market. And listen, it varies depending on which way the economy's going, and listen, the last 5 years, hey, really no one really knew what the heck was going to go on. You were talking about products. First thing I did when March came, and I was going to where was I? I was in Milwaukee looking at hotels for my retreat. And I was supposed to go to Columbus, Ohio to see University of Denver lacrosse play Ohio State in the Horseshoe. And March Madness got canceled. That got canceled. My parents were going to come up, and then I told my son, I said, "Hey, we're redoing the deck." So I went out and got the 2x10s and the
Yep.
boards and the stairs. If I would have done that like a month later, I would have spent like 60 or 70% more on all that product, you
Yep.
know?
Yep.
So but going through the process, it's just an educational thing. There's nothing wrong. You can say no, but it's there for you. And you should really, if you're at that point of your business and where you are, it's it's strategic to know all of this stuff and what your options are. And and then you can make a rational decision. I always say if you don't know, ask, then you'll know where you stand.
Right. Yeah, and some stats out there put it at business owners have on average 80% of their wealth tied up in a business, right? And so not knowing what that business is worth, like you said, is something that you should better understand and understand what the options are for that value. We see a lot of construction companies that kind of look at the book value of equity as, a rough estimate of what the value of their company is worth, but a lot of times that's not really the right number. It can actually be a lot more, maybe less, but typically, we look at it differently in terms of fair market value versus book value, and they're not always the same. So, like you said, I think, just going through the education process is important just to better understand what the options are.
It's like when the ERTC came out. It was, I mean, I helped a bunch of people and I said, hey, look, if your CPA hadn't done it, you should fire them because they need to know about this thing. And you can go through, and I'm telling you, a lot of people took advantage of that. And, there are these programs out there. And my wife, she's a federal contractor too. So we deal with the government. We understand about paperwork. And a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to deal with all it. But I'm telling you, take the time and investigate it because there's all this stuff that's out there for you. And ESOP is, like I said, that's why we had Andrew on here because he's an expert in the sector. At least that's what his press release said that I read. And I never had someone on here. I've had M&A people on here, but I'm not this route. And I know that in construction, it's a momentum thing that's in our sector. It's growing. And
Yep.
you want to be in the beginning of it. So if someone wanted to reach out to you, how would they do it? Would they just email you or look up your website or how would that be
Yeah.
done?
Yeah, our website is csgpartners.com. My email address is anikolai at csgpartners.com. So a Nikolai at csgpartners.com. You can reach out to me and yeah, we can have a conversation and just go through some of the education and talk through some of these benefits in more detail.
I will put that when I edit the video, I'll put that in here as well as in the description. So if
Okay.
anybody's out there and you're kind of in that mode that we discussed, uh, look up Andrew, have a friendly conversation, and hey, if you're Northeastern, you talk about Husky hockey or field hockey or whatever it might be, and see what's out there, and you got nothing to lose and everything to gain. Um, so. If anybody wants to reach me, I'm at davidc at ccr-mag.com. Listen, I'm a content guy. I'm addicted to data. So, hey, Andrew got on here because I got a press release. It's like playing the lottery. If you don't buy a ticket, you can't win. If you don't send me something, I can't look at it. Very tough to get in the magazine. But hey, he got here on the show, and we look at everything. It could be, an anniversary for your company. It could be a new owner's an ESOP gig that went on. It could be a new product launch. It could be a charity golf tournament. We look at everything. And like I said, very tough to get in the magazine. However, we post all the platforms, and our turnaround time is probably 24, 48 hours. We Google index it, we meditate, we make sure everything that your search engine optimization, your SEO, they're going to find it on Google, and you can share it. It's a win-win. But I'm telling you, send it to us. Don't judge a book by its cover. And I have other stuff that we put on there because one of the things I found out during the 5-year roller coaster being on. All work and no play makes Johnny a dull boy from The Shining. Okay. So we put stuff also on the website, not just all construction or facility real estate stuff. We have some other things that are on there. Hey, how to buy the right tires or what's the best insurance that you could buy. We're just trying to, but mainly construction, but there's all sorts of stuff. So send it to me and let us find a place for it. It's a win-win. So as we finish up, if there was one positive thought or phrase that you'd like to leave with our listeners out there in commercial construction coffee talk, what would it be?
Yeah, typically I always tell people just to be proactive. We've talked about going through the education process, but I think being proactive is very important. An ESOP at the end of the day is a strategy that has tons of benefits and can be really powerful. but also it does take time, right? You're exiting over maybe a 5 year period instead of having someone come in, run the business, and buy you out tomorrow. And if you wait too long where you're burnt out and you're ready to retire, it may be too late to consider an ESOP. So we always tell people be proactive, think ahead, at least understand and get informed, and then you can make a wise decision when the time is right.
As they say, retail, location, location, location. I just say timing in business is everything. So know when it's time and then ask some questions and figure it out. But be proactive, take action. It's not going to hurt you to find out, and like I said, I did my due diligence and my parents were on my butt. So I just said, look, I had to get them off my back. I was like, okay, I'll go and look at it. And that's what I did. And, here I am, I'm still here. But I didn't know I was going to be a digital guy. Now I'm kind of like, ooh, as long as I get arthritis or, I don't go blind, I could probably do this for a while. But I've got the builder bug. I hear that there's a home shortage. So we want to build more homes. I told my wife, hey, we should do a couple builds. You can do the foo-foo basements and bathrooms and kitchens. And, we can hang out, and I can still do my magazine. I put a residential section in my magazine because I wanted to talk about everything that I learned. I never dealt with a municipality, and all this stuff. And everything I learned, I was like, oh my God, it's amazing. And I can look at this home. I never built a home. I built this, but I had confidence that I could do it. And I asked a lot of questions. Let me tell you, my concrete contractor, I had what's the slurry? What is that temperature? Everybody was building that I didn't understand stuff. I asked and I videotaped stuff. I took pictures. I have an ebook that I still have to put together. And my family's been in construction since 1888, and where they're in demolition recycling. We were in construction recycling before sustainability was even a word. So when I grew up outside of Philly, and all the grandsons, it's the way it was. If you wanted to get your license at 16, you had to go work in the scrapyard under my Uncle Frank, the superintendent. May he rest in peace. But man, he was one mean SOB. But I learned so much from that guy. And I shoveled asbestos. I laid railroad tracks. I had to keep watch out for the overhead cranes dropping scrap metal on me. I mean, I did all sorts of stuff, but it molded me who I am. And now I'm a builder. I build a magazine. I'm a residential builder. I have a digital agency. I build websites. And these are all things that I never even commit. All I wanted to do was play hockey and lacrosse, and here I am, So, uh, listen, couple things before we finish up. If you're on the construction site, we want you to be safe. We want you to get home, have dinner with your family, your pets, your spouse, your wife, your kids. Have a great time, watch some TV, get some REM sleep, and be able to go do it the next day. Number two, sizzling hot right now, even in the winter. Liquefy. That's the athlete in me. Okay. If you stay liquefied, put some electrolytes in your water bottle. Number one, you're gonna have a great day. When you get dehydrated, you get headaches. You make mistakes. You make the bad pass or the bad shot. Bottom line, stay liquefied. You're gonna have a much better day. You're gonna sleep better, and you're gonna wake up and be able to do it again the following day. But last but not least, hit the like button. So YouTube algorithms can find this, episode with Andrew on ESOPs, and we want you to be a subscriber on our channel, because I have all sorts of people on here, and all I want you to do is listen. If you take anything, one value nugget from this episode, like he said, be proactive, take action, and that's the way that I'm going to leave it. So, any final words before you leave from Manhattan?
No, just want to say thanks for having us on, David. Really appreciate it. It was great talking with you. And yeah, if anyone wants to learn more, feel free to reach out.
All right, so I'm going to put all his information there in the description. I'll also put some copy in there, and when I edit it. And listen, it's 4th of July week. Today's Monday. Normally Monday through Friday. So Monday's a wind up day. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday you kick ass, and Friday's a wind down day, and then the weekend and recharge, reload, get rid of the negative, clear your mindset, put positivity, and go for it again the next day. But here it's a short week, so you got today and you got tomorrow to get stuff done in your business. Thursday, it's kind of a wash. There'll be people working, but Friday, it's the 4th of July. So you relax, enjoy yourself. It's the 249th birthday of our country. And like I said, it's the most exciting time to be alive. Don't get caught up in all the politics and all that stuff because you can't change it anyway. You can by voting, but the bottom line is you got other things to worry about. Roll with the punches, and if you don't like it, do something about it down the road. And but remember, have fun, smile, and enjoy the time off. And if you're in hospitality or retail, I know you're going to be working. Like my son, he's going to be working at the down in Dallas at Flex. Making sure the planes are growing. And but he's going to get his time off, and so will you too. So we appreciate y'all out there. And so with that said, Andrew, say goodbye from New York.
Yeah, have a happy Fourth, and look forward to hearing it when it's ready, David.
And I'm going to sign off here up at Lake Lanier at Hickory Lakeside. And everybody, we will see you next time on another episode of Commercial Construction Coffee Talk. Andrew, when I come up there, I'm going to look you up and we'll go out and see some projects that are going on
All
with some of
right,
the clients. All
deal.
right. All
Sounds
right.
good.
All right, everybody. Hey, take it easy. Have a great rest of the week. Enjoy the holiday, and we will see you next time. Cheers.